Hi, everyone. Tyler Manion here, Vice President of the NPC and IFBB Pro League. We're going to go over the Texas Pro, do a recap video for each division. First, we're going to start off with the open men. We're going to basically go through the poses with Hunter and Andrew. This was an extremely close show. I want to give props to both these guys. I think they've improved so much since last year. Actually, not even last year for Andrew. Andrew, from the Arnold until this show, improved greatly. His fullness and the roundness that he brought to his physique. And he also, kept more size in his legs with arguably the same condition, if not a little better conditioning than he brought to the Arnold. And his back improved greatly. He added so much more density to his back. It was very impressive to see in such a short amount of time. Hunter improved his physique massively since last year. Looks like a completely different bodybuilder. He turned his back poses from a weakness into a huge strength. His conditioning is way better than it was last year. Even his actual waistline is a lot better than it was last year as well. So both these guys improved a ton. I think these are both guys that are going to be pushing to be in that top 5 of the Olympia and compared and in that first call out and give everybody a run for their money. I think it was by far the best show we've had this year in the Pro League, and it was just a treat really to judge the show. I think they gave not only the audience in Texas, but everybody that was watching around the world a heck of a show. Going into that, we'll go into the poses and what we saw from the judges table. As you guys know, we posed these guys a ton at this show, obviously because of how close it was. So what we saw when they first came out to what we were seeing at the end, obviously there was a difference. In prejudging and in finals, when they both came out, actually the show was probably Hunter's to lose at that point because the conditioning that he brought both times, he was very conditioned, very detailed, very separated. And you'll hear as we go pose by pose here what we were really looking at as judges. And then, obviously, what changed as well because we posed them so hard so we could see who really would be the winner. And Andrew stood up there almost statuesque and really wasn't breathing hard and wasn't struggling to hit his poses. Hunter had a much harder time, not only hitting the poses, but also controlling his midsection as well. Started to sweat and started to fade as we went along. We'll go first into the front double bicep. Everybody looks at Andrew's front shots and thinks like Andrew is the clear winner. But in this front double bicep, when these guys first come out, the front double bicep is a very close pose. So Andrew tends to tilt his upper body a lot in his front double bicep. If you go look at the finals, the final round, go look at the pictures on NBC News Online from the beginning until the end. If you go look at the first round of posing, you'll see Andrew actually hit his front double more upright in his upper body. It makes him look a lot wider. And then just the next round after that, he goes back to really tilting his upper body, and that really takes away his width. So because of that, and also because Hunter came out, he's controlling his midsection. He hits a deep vacuum, and he's very deeply separated from head to toe. So the lower body, the separation, the size of his legs are better than Andrew. The upper body, he still has that X-frame that we're looking for. He still has the density and the definition from his arms, to his lats into his midsection that was tight. This pose, when they first came out, was very close, very close. However, as we went and we posed them along, that's when it became clear that Andrew would win this front double bicep pose. Next up is the front lat spread. Now, Andrew might have the best front lat spread in the entire Pro League right now. His chest is thickly muscled and striated. His abs in this pose look like they have been drawn onto him, basically. They're so deep, so detailed. His lats, the way he poses, his lats come out very wide. He's still thick and round through the shoulders and the arms. His whole upper body is crazy, and his legs, even though his quads are not deeply separated, they're still separated and conditioned enough where it's close enough to matching his upper body, and this pose is just a lights-out pose for him. If he is able to either increase maybe the size of his quads, but really increase the separation in his quads, this pose will become even more unbelievable for him. Now, Hunter's front lat spread is a solid pose. He's still lacking in the chest a little bit. Other than that, that's mainly the weak spot in this pose for him. His lats still come out. He still has a great X frame in this pose. Obviously, his lower body, again, was deeply separated, had great size to it. Really good balance from top to bottom for him. Just against Andrew, it's hard to win this pose, and Andrew wins this pose pretty convincingly. Next up is the side chest pose. And as you guys saw in the criteria video that we released, in the side chest pose, we are not just looking at the density and thickness of the chest. So in this side chest pose, we're still looking at your width up top, shoulder to shoulder, coming into a nice tight waist. We're looking at the arm size, the shoulders, the chest, but then also obviously your side leg. We want to see the size of the side leg. It needs to match the upper body. We're looking at the conditioning and the separation and all of these things. So the side chest pose, even though Andrew's chest is much better than Hunter's, the side chest pose goes to Hunter. And funnily enough, backstage, whenever Andrew came off after the finals, I go and give feedback, and I worked on him with his posing for all the poses, and he's hitting the side chest a lot better than he did even at the Arnold this year. He showed a lot more width and thickness up top. He also was showing off his side leg better. He improved his hamstring as well. That still needs to improve, but he improved it since the Arnold for sure. Actually, whenever we fixed it so he wasn't shrugging his back shoulder across like this, instead keeping it level and pushing over so he stays wide up top, makes the pose look even stronger for him. And I think it can be a very dangerous pose for him at the Olympia if he can really bring up, the hamstrings from the side, but also the detail and the separation in his lower body there. Hunter's detail and separation in his legs from the side and also the size of them is great. His width up top is also great. He has great shoulders and great arms. His chest can still improve in thickness, but overall, this pose goes to Hunter. Next up is the back double bicep pose. The back double bicep, Hunter has turned this pose, like I said earlier, into a huge, huge strength. You see the size and the detail of his arms, his shoulders. His whole entire back now is dense and detailed and thick. All that flows into a nice small waist. And then we go into his lower body that was very well conditioned with hamstrings popping, good size to his side legs. Basically this pose is now one of the best back double bicep poses we have in the Pro League. And it was extremely impressive. As we pose them, this pose became closer because he started to fade into sweat, but it was a very dominating pose at first. For Andrew has improved this back double. I think he actually improved it a lot from the Arnold until now. He added a lot of density to his back. However, most of the time he was pinching his back and not opening up his lats all the way. Actually, as we posed them, he posed better in the back double bicep and was opening it more and got stronger. Just like Hunter, Andrew has great detail with his arms into his shoulders. Through the back, the thickness is really, really getting there. I think actually if he's hitting it properly the whole entire time, this pose went from what was once a weakness to him to now a good pose and can turn into a strength. Again, he needs to be more conditioned through the lower body in this pose. He can also use more hamstrings, but his actual leg size and thickness came up from what I saw from the Arnold until now. That may be why they didn't push the conditioning as hard as they could, because they wanted to keep this size. So if he's able to find that balance where he improves the hamstrings and can push the conditioning on this pose can also be very, very dangerous at the Olympia for him. But this was a Hunter pose for sure. Next up is the back lat spread. Again, this was a very strong pose for Hunter. It's improved a lot in the last year. He can actually still hit the pose even a little bit better if he would keep his chest up and really make sure he's pulling his lats out. That would actually make it look like he had more to his lower lats and would make this pose look even stronger for him. But again, the thickness and the depth and the width that he has to his back, it's improved a ton. And then also, obviously, again, his legs from the back are very, very strong. Now we get over to Andrew, and Andrew hit this pose wrong every single time we posed them on the stage. He was pulling his lats out, but instead of pulling them all the way out, he would round over and round his shoulders and hunch to the front. This would take away from so much of his width, but it also flattens out his back. And backstage, when we worked on this pose and fixed it, I think whenever he goes to hit this pose at the Olympia, if he hits it the proper way, he's going to shock people with how good this pose could really look on him. So I think that's going to be a big surprise for people at the Olympia. It's a much, much stronger pose than what he showed off this weekend. But for these reasons, again, this was a Hunter pose. Next up is the side tricep pose. As you guys saw in the criteria video, we want to see these guys hit the side tricep pose from the side. So the way Andrew's hitting his side tricep pose was basically a variation of the ab and thigh, but instead of the arms being down, he's showing off his tricep and has his arms down. Guys transition into this pose all the time, and transitioning into it is fine. However, it's called side tricep for a reason. We want to see their bodies from the side. We want to see the side leg again. The side leg gets judged in two poses, the side chest and the side tricep. So as unbelievable, of course, because Andrew has an amazing ab and thigh, but as unbelievable as his side tricep pose he was hitting looks, it's not what we want to see and not what we're judging in the side tricep. We need to see that side leg, and we want to see these guys in the side tricep. Again, this is something I talked to Andrew about backstage, and we worked on hitting that pose as well backstage. He hits it because, obviously, it plays to his strengths. He still needs to get that side leg better and the conditioning and everything else with the side leg better. But it's still a good pose for him when he hits the actual side tricep. Hunter's side tricep has improved a ton. He has the thickness. He has the width through the top. His chest actually looks better in this side tricep pose than it does in the side chest pose. It keeps the thickness a little bit more. When Hunter's controlling his waist and has his abs blown out and sucked in, this is a very, very strong pose for Hunter. And in our opinion, Hunter takes this side tricep pose. So that's why, again, Hunter has a very strong side leg as well. So that's why Hunter takes the side tricep pose. Andrew knows to actually hit the side tricep pose before going into this variation. Even though his variation looks insane, this was a Hunter pose at the show. Next up is the ab and thigh. And I know I said this about the front lat spread, but I think I can say this without any doubt. Andrew has the best ab and thigh pose in the whole entire pro league right now. It's an unbelievable pose for him. His midsection and abs are probably the best in the whole entire division, from head to toe. He has great arms flowing into how wide his lats look in this pose, down to the craziest core in bodybuilding. And again, his legs have great size to them from the front. If he can even get them either more separated or even a little bit bigger, this pose becomes somehow even stronger for him. But this is a pose basically when he's in this kind of condition that he was even in here, he doesn't lose it to anybody. Hunter's ab and thigh is a weaker shot for him. I suggested to him that he should actually hit the one arm over his head variation that he was hitting instead of the straight two arms overhead. With the one arm overhead pose, it actually looks a little bit better on him. He's able to flex his one quad, which has great size and separation and detail into it. His abs and his core actually look better. Even his obliques and serratus look way more detailed, and it gives him a better illusion and shape to the shot. So if he hits it that way, it's a decent pose for him. It's better than the two hands overhead, but it's just no match for Andrew in this pose. Lastly, we get to the most muscular pose. It was actually interesting because they both would hit two variations of the most muscular. Andrew would start out with his hands clasped in front of him. Hunter would do a hand on hip variation, and then they would almost switch to Andrew doing his hands on the hip variation to Hunter keeping his hands clasped. Now, this pose is a very, very close pose between them, especially when they first came out and started posing. Andrew, with his hands clasped together, is a much better most muscular for him. He keeps way more size and shows off the roundness and the thickness of his arms, his chest, and shoulders with the hands clasped. Also, you see his abs. They come into play in this pose. They're exposed, which is a great strength for him. And his lower body, again, from the front, is still very, very solid. Now, Hunter actually looks better with his one hand on hip, one arm in the crab flex. He's able to show off the arms and the shoulders. His chest actually shows off some thickness here. His abs still look pretty good here, and obviously his lower body is very crisp and detailed and has great size to it. He takes away some of his size because he's showing off also with the hands on the hips. He shows off his width. You can also see his lats here. Now, whenever he puts his hands together, he takes away some of that width and some of that X-frame and some of the fullness by doing that and makes himself look a little bit smaller. And then when Andrew would go to his hands on the hips, he wasn't posing his lats, so he looks more straight up and down. You see the gaps in his physique, and he's not showing off nearly the roundness and the fullness. So both of them on their second variation, it was actually worse than the first way that they hit it. So in the first way, when they both came out, this is an extremely close pose between them. Really could go either way. As we posed them and as it went on, that's when, again, the control of the midsection and the sweating and being washed out really hurt Hunter, and this turned it into an Andrew pose all the way by the end. So another pose that was almost a coin flip turned into, as we worked them harder and harder, it became an Andrew pose. To wrap everything up here, as you see from what I just said, whenever these guys first came out and were first posing them, I have Hunter taking the side chest, the back double bicep, the back lat spread, the side tricep, and also at the beginning, I would have given him the most muscular by maybe a hair. Now, because it's so close between such great competitors, we knew we had to work them. And working them also helps the judges see who's going to keep their composure and who's going to keep their conditioning and who is going to be able to go through this and look better as the time goes on. And we'll see if someone technically breaks or not. And we've had to do this, in other shows with other divisions even as well, when a show's this close between two great competitors. By the end, like I said earlier, Hunter was sweating, he was fading, and also losing control of his midsection. So by the end, I had Andrew winning the front double, the front lat spread, the ab and thigh, the most muscular. However, poses that were clearly Hunter's when they first came out, all of a sudden turned into more of toss-ups. This includes even the back double bicep by the end, because how Hunter faded, the definition and the crispness to his back, he started to sweat and he started to lose that, and Andrew started to pick up steam. Also, the side chest that was pretty clearly Hunter's, when they first came out, all of a sudden he started sweating. We can still see the midsection in the side chest, in the side tricep. So in these side poses that were clearly Hunter's, now they're becoming toss-ups, and Andrew's gaining ground and becoming even stronger. So by the end, I had Andrew taking 4 poses clearly, with other poses becoming toss-ups. That would push it into Andrew's favor, and I think that can show you guys and explain why I put them through so many rounds of posing, because Andrew has 2 very, very dominant poses, front lat spread and abdominals and thigh. Hunter had 2 very dominant poses, which were the 2 back poses, the back double bicep and the back lat spread. However, all the other poses were so close with each other, we really wanted to get a definitive answer on who was going to win the show, and posing him that much helped us make our decision and led to us going with Andrew, because of how not only did he stay the same, but arguably got stronger as we posed them more and more, while Hunter got weaker. So I hope this helps everybody understand what we're seeing at the judges table, the criteria, like in the video yesterday as well. That's the criteria video, but I hope this helps you understand what I was saying in the criteria video. And hopefully this helps inform fans and athletes and coaches and everybody else moving forward more on what we're looking for in the open men's bodybuilding class. Thank you.